The sky over Verelian Prime never darkened. It burned. A constant, oppressive crimson glow poured down from the fractured star above, casting long, distorted shadows across the battlefield. The air shimmered with heat, thick with the metallic scent of blood and ozone. War had reshaped the planet into something unrecognizable, something alive with violence. Commander Kayleigh stood at the center of it all. She didn't flinch as another explosion tore through the horizon. Her armor, sleek and obsidian, reflected the firelight like a mirror of death. Behind her, her soldiers, tall, silver-skinned beings with glowing eyes, waited in perfect silence. They feared her, not because she demanded it, but because she never hesitated. Kayleigh's was the conqueror of 12 systems, the destroyer of fleets, the one whispered about in the dark corners of dying civilizations. Entire species had surrendered at the mere mention of her name, and today she had come to finish what remained of humanity. "Commander," one of her lieutenants said, bowing slightly, "the last human resistance has been located. A single survivor remains." Kayleigh's tilted her head. "One."
"Yes."
"He refuses to surrender." A faint smile touched her lips. "Then bring him to me." They dragged him across the battlefield in chains. He was smaller than she expected. Humans were supposed to be resilient, unpredictable creatures. That was what the report said. But this one looked almost fragile, dust-covered, bleeding from a cut across his forehead, his dark hair matted with ash. Yet his eyes, they didn't match the rest of him. They were calm, too calm. Kayleigh studied him from her elevated position, her gaze sharp and unrelenting. "This," she said slowly, "is the last of your kind?" The man said nothing. One of the soldiers shoved him to his knees. "You stand before Commander Kayleigh's," the soldier hissed. "Kneel properly, human." The man let out a quiet breath, then adjusted himself, not out of submission, but out of comfort. Kayleigh's narrowed her eyes. "Your name?" "Elias," he said simply. His voice didn't shake. That alone was unusual. "Elias," Kayleigh's repeated, tasting the word. "Do you understand who I am?" "I do." "And yet you do not tremble." A pause. Then Elias gave the faintest hint of a smile. "I don't see a reason to." The soldiers around him stiffened. Kayleigh's leaned forward slightly, intrigued. "You should be afraid," she said. "Why?" he asked. The simplicity of the question caught her off guard. "Because I can end your life with a thought." Elias shrugged, as if she had just commented on the weather. "You could." Something flickered in Kayleigh's chest, something unfamiliar. Irritation. "You stand alone," she continued, her voice growing colder. "Your people are gone. Your world is ash. Everything you knew is dust beneath my feet." Elias lifted his gaze, meeting hers directly. "I know, and still no fear." There was a long silence. Then Elias said something that no one in the history of her conquests had ever dared to say. "I think you want me to be afraid." The battlefield seemed to hold its breath. Kayleigh's eyes darkened. "And if I do?" "Then maybe," Elias said, his voice steady. "It's not about me." A ripple of tension spread through the soldiers. Kayleigh's rose from her throne. The ground seemed to tremble with each step she took toward him. "Careful, human," she warned. "You are walking a very thin line." Elias looked up at her, not with defiance, not with arrogance, but with something far more unsettling. Understanding. "I don't think I am." She stopped just inches away from him. From this close, she could see every detail, the dirt on his skin, the exhaustion in his posture. And yet his eyes remained unbroken. "Tell me," she said softly, "what do you see when you look at me?" Elias didn't answer immediately. He studied her, really studied her. Not her armor, Not her weapons. Her. And then he said, I see someone who's tired. The words hit harder than any weapon. Kaylee's hand shot forward, gripping his chin, forcing him to look up at her. You know nothing about me. Maybe not, Elias admitted. But I know what it looks like. Her grip tightened. Explain. Elias winced slightly, but didn't pull away. You've won, he said. Over and over again. You've crushed everything in your path. You've proven you're the strongest, the most feared, the most unstoppable force in the galaxy.
His voice softened.
And yet, you're still here. Kaylee's froze. Elias continued. Still fighting. Still destroying. Still chasing something you haven't found. A dangerous silence filled the air. What makes you think I'm chasing anything? She asked. Elias met her gaze. Because if you weren't, you would have stopped a long time ago. The words lingered between them. For the first time in years, Kaylee's hesitated. That night, she didn't sleep. She stood alone on the edge of the battlefield, staring out at the burning horizon. Elias' words echoed in her mind. You're still here. She had heard countless last words before. Begging, cursing, screaming. But never this. Never something that made her question.
Why?
Commander. She didn't turn as her lieutenant approached. The human awaits your judgment. Kaylee's was silent for a long moment. Bring him. Elias stood before her again, this time unchained. The guards had protested, but Kaylee's had silenced them with a single glance. If he tries anything, she had said, it will be the last thing he does. Now they faced each other in the quiet of her command chamber. No soldiers. No battlefield. Just the two of them. You spoke boldly earlier, Kaylee said. Most would call it foolish. Elias shrugged. Most people aren't me. A faint flicker of amusement crossed her face. Clearly. She circled him slowly. You believe I am tired, she said. I think you are, Elias replied. And what would you know of it? Elias let out a quiet breath. Enough. Kaylee stopped in front of him. Then tell me, she said. What am I tired of? Elias hesitated.
For the first time.
Not out of fear, but out of thought. Then he answered. Winning. The word landed softly, but it carried weight. Kaylee stared at him. Winning, she repeated. You've built your entire existence around it, Elias said. Every battle, every conquest, every victory, it all leads to the same place. And where is that? Elias met her gaze. Nowhere. The silence that followed was heavy. You think my victories are meaningless? She asked. I think they stopped meaning something a long time ago, Elias said. Kaylee's eyes narrowed. And what would you have me do instead, human? Surrender? Lay down my weapons and hope the universe is kind. No, Elias said. Then what? He took a step closer. Choose something different. Kaylee's laughed, a sharp, cold sound. You speak as if it's that simple. It isn't, Elias admitted. But it's still a choice. She studied him. You're not afraid of me, she said again. Elias shook his head. No, why? And then came the moment. The answer that would change everything. Elias looked directly into her eyes. Not with defiance. Not with submission. But with absolute clarity. I think you're more afraid than I am. The room went still. Kaylee's breath caught, just for a second. Afraid, she echoed. Of stopping, Elias said. Of facing what's left when there's nothing left to fight. Her chest tightened. That's not fear, she said. Then what is it? Kaylee's didn't answer. Because for the first time, she didn't know. Days passed. The war paused. Not ended, but paused. The soldiers didn't understand. The galaxy didn't understand. But Kaylee's did something no one expected. She talked. With Elias. Again and again. At first, it was interrogation, then debate, then something else, something quieter. You could leave, she said one day. Take a ship, disappear. Elias shook his head. And go where? Anywhere. There's nowhere left, he said simply. Kaylee's frowned. Then why stay? Elias looked at her. Because you haven't decided yet. Decided what? He gave a small, almost sad smile. What kind of person you want to be when this is over? Kaylee's felt something shift inside her. Something fragile. Something dangerous. The final decision came without warning. A transmission arrived from the High Council. Commander Kaylee's. The voice crackled. You have delayed long enough. The human species must be eradicated completely. Finish it. Kaylee stood in silence. Her fingers hovered over the command console. One signal, one command, and Elias would be gone. So simple, so easy, so empty. Commander, the voice pressed. Kaylee's closed her eyes. For the first time in her life, she hesitated. And then she made her choice. Elias stood in the chamber when she entered. He saw it immediately. The difference.
You decided, he said.
Kaylee's nodded. The council has given the order. Elias didn't react. Of course they did. She stepped closer. I can still carry it out. I know. A long pause. And will you? He asked. Kaylee's looked at him. Really looked at him. And then she said the words that no one in the galaxy ever expected to hear from her. No, the air seemed to shift. Elias exhaled slowly. Then what happens now? Kaylee's turned toward the window, staring out at the burning sky. Now, she said, I find out what comes after winning. Elias smiled, not because he had survived, but because he had been right.
The war didn't end that day.
But something far more important did. The cycle. And as the crimson sky slowly began to dim for the first time in decades, Commander Kaylee's took her first step into a future she had never allowed herself to imagine. Not as a conqueror, not as a destroyer, but as something else. Something unknown. And for the first time, she wasn't afraid.